and then you can answer. So I think let's wait for another 2 minutes and let's start in time, even though the recording has started. I think we just start now.
Yeah, we can proceed.
Yeah. So hello and welcome everyone to this knowledge sharing series through Thursday Talks. And I think this is the 5th Thursday Talk. And looking at the response, a very big thanks to Magic and CII for making this series successful. I am Vaishali Jain, Senior Manager Projects and Forums at European Business and Technology Center. EBTC is a project facilitation and advisory company, and within EBTC, we have Europe India Startup Forum, who is committed to ease the business corridor between Europe and India for startups and scale-ups. So before we start, just 2 very small house rules. Firstly, please have your mic on silent and video off, unless you are an event speaker or maybe contributing to event in any ways. And secondly, also please mention your questions in the chat box, because those are very important and we would like to take them at the end of the session. So with this, I would like to pass to Ashish ji for his welcome note. Sir, can you hear us? I think there is a little lag in the network.
Yeah, right now I can hear you.
Yes, it's good now.
Yeah, so precisely what you are expecting. I welcome all the participants for this 5th Thursday talk series, and it is indeed a privilege for hosting this Thursday talk series in association with EBTC. And as just now Vaishali mentioned, this Thursday talk series is part of the Tata Technology Magic Innovation Hub, which is a virtual exhibition for startup ecosystem hosted at CII's ICONN2021. And the intention is to make the startups aware on the various opportunities, including the internationalization in Europe through this Discover Europe program. So basically, Magic is a incubator and accelerator promoted by Chamber of Marathwada Industries and Agriculture, CMI, which is the apex body of industries in Marathwada region of Maharashtra state. And we help the startups, especially the student-led startups, and that too from tier 2 and tier 3 cities to grow. So we have a CSR partnership with Tata Technologies, and as a part of this CSR partnership, these Thursday talk series has been organized in association with EBTC. And I take this opportunity to welcome our today's speaker, as well as thank the GS Raisoni College for partnering us for this today's event. Over to Vaishali.
Thank you, sir. And without taking any more time, let me introduce you to our esteemed guest today, Miss Olivia Exton. Olivia is a program manager at Startup Campus London, an international startup accelerator operating in Hungary, Germany, and UK. Olivia is global citizen at heart and is passionate about facilitating international collaboration, as well as supporting companies in maximizing their success in new markets. She's building bridges between different ecosystems and help startups from Europe to Softland in UK. And also, I'm very proud to say that she has created and manages Discover Europe program, which is basically an international accelerator program, which helps non-European startups and scale-ups in exploring European ecosystem and helps them to prepare help them to prepare for the entry to European markets. So with this, I welcome you, Olivia. So Olivia, as you already know that India with 90 unicorns, we are now the third largest unicorn hub after US and China. And Indian businesses are exploring new geographies continuously. And the emerging ideas which are coming, they are like globally recognized. And these are the ideas that have potential to go global, not just from tier 1, but tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well. Therefore, my first question to you is why it is important that the startup think global from the very first minute.
Thank you so much for Vaishali for the introduction, and I'm very honored to be here on these Thursday talks on one of them. So just to answer your question and get to the point really, because I know that we don't have so much time. I find the question great, and I think it's also very basic, but one of the most important questions that a lot of companies tend to forget, because when you're starting a business, you have so much to think about that often you tend to focus on the day-to-day issues and you forget like where you're actually trying to head. So I would say, like, by definition, the difference between a startup and an SME is that a startup is born global, whereas an SME is often just focusing on one single market. So a startup is basically offering a global solution to a global problem. So from the very, very beginning, if you're a startup, you have to think internationally and globally. And I then also say that, you know, of course you have to think globally, but obviously, like, very often the case is that you are serving a solution for an entire region, but this might not work in another region, which is also fine. But the main point is that you try and maximize this international presence that you can get. And you are always trying to find a product market fit that you can twist with some few like little things that it would actually work and solve this problem in another country as well. So I think this is one of like the magical things about startups, and also one of the most exciting things that if you look at big unicorns like Facebook, Spotify, and there are so many to mention, that they actually offer the solution globally, which many people are using all around the world. So besides just this basic definition why it is very important for a company, for a startup to think globally from the very first minute, when they are still like trying to develop even just the idea that then they later on want to create. Another reason which is very important why you should think internationally is because basically by going global or just going international, even, you're opening up new markets to yourself. So new ways of generating revenue. And sales, basically. Another thing is also fundraising. You might not be able to raise as much funds in your own home country, but if you go to another country, the VCs are going to be different. So if you expand there, you also open up the ways of raising funds. And it also offers you a way of risk management. So if you have offices and basically branches in different kind of countries, if anything happens in one particular country, let's say a war would start or something, and basically there is no way of you continuing your business there. If you have offices in other countries, then basically you can bridge this issue with the other offices. So your risk management becomes better. But on the other side, obviously, and that's why international expansion is tricky. Obviously, if you expand too quickly everywhere, then the risk management is going to take another effect, which is you are just everywhere and you're getting out of control. So obviously, you have to plan well. And another reason also why it's important for a company to go international is also because it makes its operations more cost effective. So you can actually just bring to one particular country where, for example, IT personnel would be much cheaper. You can basically hire all the IT people there, which can then serve your customers internationally. So there are a lot of positive sides why you should expand internationally from the very first minute of your idea, and why you should think internationally. But at the same time, take that with a pinch of salt, and planning well is also key. Otherwise, you just get out of control. So this would be my answer to your question.
Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense. And when it comes to internationalization, it just should not be restricted to only selling your goods, but then getting a good outsourced IT process is also internationalization in a way. But then when we see internationalization in itself looks really rosy, but then there are a number of challenges which startups have to go through. So if you can highlight a couple of challenges and how to overcome those challenges.
Yeah. No, thank you. And I was already touching a bit up on these challenges, but I will deep dive a bit more now. So basically, the way I could summarize the challenges of international expansion is three key areas. So one of them is it's very risky, as I mentioned, because you have no idea how the other country works. If you're not familiar with the country, especially, very often you do a lot of research, but you have to have your boots on the ground to actually see and to discover smaller issues that you might not have been aware before. And for example, how the legislation system works. An example would be Red Bull. The founder of Red Bull was in Thailand, where he discovered that the fighters are drinking this special drink before they go into a fight. He basically brought this to Austria. But the reason why he was not able to sell his product was not because there was not enough demand, especially when he started his marketing campaigns, but because actually the legislation system did not allow him to sell it because it had too much caffeine. So it's very, very important that you are clear with these smaller issues that you might not think first, but then actually if you look close and you have your boots on the ground, then you are going to be able to discover this. And which brings me to my other point, which would be local presence. So if you want to expand internationally, now because of COVID, with all the negativity that COVID had, it did have a positive impact on business, especially international business, because now you don't necessarily have to travel to a certain country physically, because people got more used to having these online talks like this one now, and also online meetings and even online networking and online conferences. So it definitely improved this effect of international expansion, that you don't have to necessarily be as much physically there, but still building up trust. And what I said before as well, the fact that you kind of have a sense and a better understanding of how the business culture works there, how the mentality is. It's not enough just to read and just to ask a few friends. You have to experience that yourself to be able to come up with a good strategy. And another thing would be also that international expansion is expensive, not only because often you have to travel to the certain destination country where you want to expand your business, but also because sales cycles tend to be much longer than expected. So I know quite a few companies came up to me and they were like, well, Olivia, so here is my plan, and I expect to have already our first customers in 6 months in the UK. And I was like, well, if you can do this, please tell me your secret recipe, because not because we are not good enough, but it was so challenging. I haven't seen anyone, almost no one who has managed this. And very often then the companies come back and they say, well, actually, it is very challenging, and it takes at least up to 12 months, but very often 18 months to really start your sales process, to the fact that, okay, I already signed up one, and then I gain the trust of one customer, then another one is going to come up and sign a deal. So, and especially if you're coming from very, very far away, again, like this issue of trust is very often there if you're a foreign company. So, which also brings me to the fact that often it makes sense to hire someone locally. But the question is, if you are, for example, expanding from a country that is not as rich, let's put it that way. And let's say, for example, you're expanding from an Eastern European country to a Western European country, and you want to hire a local talent, then it's going to be much more difficult for you to hire this talent, because it's very expensive, for example, to hire someone in the UK, if you're a Hungarian company, than for a UK company to hire someone in Hungary, just because the difference of the wages, basically. So these would be like a couple of the challenges that I would say. And I hope you don't mind, like I would also just share a few points that could help you in basically like, because like I summarized the issues of international expansion, but what can you do? So in terms of like making sure that you do succeed in your international expansion, and what I would advise is a very, very good internal analysis first. So check first, like, what is your motivation to go to that certain country? Like, what do you want to get out of this country? Like, how is your target audience in the country? Do they even have the purchasing power to buy your product? How are the trends in this certain country? Like, would they even be interested? Like, if you were talking about vegan food 10 years ago or 15 years ago in the UK, like, people would look at you like you came from the moon. Like it was really, but nowadays, like, all the vegan cafes are popping up everywhere. So you might have had a billion-dollar idea in terms of like a vegan product, but the market was just not ready. So what is your value proposition, and does it resonate with what the customers are expecting from you? And these are very, very important to get the product market fit right. And what I would say is also have a very good analysis of the country where you want to expand to. So how are your competitions? Very often I see that we are a great company in XYZ country. We are actually like leading in the market, but actually you then come to Germany, for example, and there are already 10 companies that are similar. I don't say then you are not able to expand to Germany, but then find a way and find a niche that you can offer and where you can stand out in comparison to your competitors that are already in that country, because the way you start in this country is much further back than these companies that are already there, because you haven't gained the trust yet from your customers. They already have their boots on the ground. So then you have to come up with a niche that you can offer, like, okay, there might be 10 companies that are similar, but I am standing out because of this and this, and make sure that you articulate this message in a way that your customers understand, because often the message is there, but the receiver just doesn't get the message. And one more thing that I would also highlight is a resource analysis. Do you have the financial and human resources to actually expand internationally? Because if you're a CEO of a company, very often I have the feeling, and not just CEOs, I'm not a CEO, but still, I often wish that my day would be made out of 48 hours because I have so much to do. But your day is still 24 hours, at least for me and for most people that I know. So basically, I would say that if you're the CEO and you want to expand internationally, if you want to do this because you think you are the best fit to do this job, then make sure that you kind of give your work from the day-to-day operations and management of the company, you give that to someone else to manage. So you can then primarily focus on international expansion and business development, because you need at least 20 hours per week to focus on your international expansion to a particular country. So have one person that is responsible for this process, because the worst thing also for us as an accelerator is that when we are working with a company and trying to support them, they say for us, okay, actually for the IT, this and that, you should talk to John. And then actually for the business development marketing things, you should talk to Anna. And then for this, you should talk to this. And then we are like, okay, so who is responsible for what? And then everyone is just confused and the process is not really going forward properly. And then the other thing is financial resources, because as I said, it's expensive. So make sure you have enough money, because there's nothing worse when you pour in a lot of money into a process and the money just ends up like gone, and then you cannot finish the process. So these would be the things that I would highlight in terms of international expansion. So really make sure that you are prepared, make sure you have the analysis, and make sure that when you actually expand, you have a very, very good plan for your expansion. Because as I said, it's a tricky business, and often you are entering a market that you don't know. So it's often you get things wrong. So if you have a plan that is detailed, but also has the ability to shift if you have to, if something comes up and okay, like now I have to change my value proposition or this or that, that it's a flexible plan, but it's a detailed plan. So you can always get a feedback. Am I actually on track or not? Am I doing something wrong with my international expansion? Is my money going into research, into things that actually I shouldn't pay for right now? I can do that later on. Let's just test first. And my final point would be validate, 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 validate before you actually put a lot of money into a certain thing. So make sure that the market where you want to expand did actually give you a feedback. Your customers that would actually pay for your product, that they are interested in the product, and they would purchase the product, and they would purchase it for a price that you need them to pay in order to make your business successful. I hope I answered your question. It was a bit a longer answer than I expected, but yeah.
No, that totally addresses it. And I think there's one more challenge as Indian business. We see that when we are trying to go to Europe is also the language and the cultural barrier. Like, for example, if I'm a garment manufacturer, maybe my fabrics are superb, but then what styles work in Europe might not be what I am making. So getting that understanding is also very important for me.
Yeah, true.
So these type of challenges also needs to be addressed. But then other than that, like since you support businesses mainly in going to Hungary, UK and Germany, so do you want to give a little ecosystem role or some key elements of the ecosystem, that how this ecosystem can be improvised, or how this ecosystem can be actually made enabler for Indian businesses who are looking at internationalization?
Of course. So what I would say, and later on I'm also going to discuss this when I'm introducing Discover Europe, the reason why we actually came up with this idea of Discover Europe is because I traveled quite a bit in Southeast Asia as well just before COVID, and my colleague as well, and what we both saw is that a lot of companies are interested in or are open to Europe, but they think it's what you said as well. It's fragmented, a lot of countries, a lot of languages, a lot of cultures, and it's just very, very difficult to see everything clearly, basically. Whereas if you go to the US, it's one country, one language, etc. So this is why a lot of companies tend to choose the US over Europe. But the good thing about Europe is that it might be first confusing, but actually it's the world's largest single market. With over 500 million people, and there's a single currency, the euro, which is in most of the EU countries, and also in terms of mobility, if you get a visa for the EU, you can travel in all of the EU countries. So it's basically, it has a lot to offer. So this is why I would say that it's easy to actually, once you get into the European market, then the EU market, then it's easy to get around. And also there are borders, but as I said, if you get the EU visa, you can travel without any bigger issues between these countries. And then in terms of the three countries where we are operating, so Hungary, Germany, and the UK, there are three very different countries. So in terms of location, Hungary is more central but more Eastern Europe. Germany is very Central Europe, and the UK obviously is the most Western, not anymore EU country, but European country. So basically, what I would say is not just if you're looking at these three countries, but in general, all these countries have something else to offer, and they are unique and special because of something, because of different reasons. So they a lot of pros, a lot of cons. But what you have to do is what I said before: have a proper internal analysis, and then see which country matches you with your internal strength and weaknesses the most. So, for example, Hungary, we are only 10 million people in Hungary. What I would say why Hungary is good is because it's a great location. You can basically get to most European countries in a maximum 3.5 hour flight. So it's in the heart of Europe. And it's a great, excellent first stepping stone if you want to enter the European market, because it's a very cost-efficient country. So our labor wages are quite low. Operating a company is not expensive here. Renting an office is not expensive here, and living expenses are also not high. So if you are on a tighter budget, it's great to come through Hungary, because you are in the EU already, but in a very cost-efficient way. So it's less riskier to enter the EU through Hungary. Another couple of good things about Hungary, like the GDP rate has not fallen below 2% since 2012. We also have the V4 region, which is basically like Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. So this is basically like already like a much we have basically like a strong within the EU. We have an even stronger economic collaboration between these four countries, and we have the lowest corporation tax in the EU as well, so which is 9%. So these are basically the good things, and also our talent is excellent. We have very good universities. A lot of people speak very good English and also German. So basically, if you want to you want to hire affordable talent, Hungary is a great location. But if you look at Germany, for example, sorry, like something keeps on popping up. If you don't mind, I would just mute this. 1 second, sorry. It's just going to be very irritating.
No worries, no worries.
You know, like you have all these chat channels with, and then it's just, right, now it should be okay or not. Oh God.
So we already know about Hungary, that the GDP is low, and then the population is a good number. I think we can also know about Germany and UK.
Yeah, so thank you very much. So yeah, basically like just going into Germany. So Germany is the economic powerhouse of the EU. It has the largest consumer market in Europe with over 80 million population. And it's also the third largest exporter in the world. So if you think about like cars, Mercedes, BMW, etc., these are all German cars, just to mention like one sector. And also Germany has the largest economy in Europe, as I mentioned. So the GDP was over 3.4 trillion euros in 2019. So basically, it's a huge market. If you enter it, you have a lot of way more customers than if you would enter, for example, the 10 million Hungary. So you have, as I said, over 80 million people in Germany. In terms of corporate income tax, it's 15%, so it is much higher than in Hungary, but still it's moderate to some other European countries. And basically, you have excellent labor skills here as well, with great universities. And what I would also highlight here is that basically, like businesses like corporates and SMEs are very open to collaborate with startups in Germany, which is a good thing to know. And one thing that I would highlight about Germany is that many people think of Germany as just as a single country, both which is yes. But the thing is that within Germany, the startup ecosystem is divided into different regions. So, for example, Berlin is very much focused on fintech. And you have to know which city and that region, which city is focusing on which sector. So don't just think that, okay, I go and I have a fintech company and I would just go to any kind of city in Germany, like really see which region has the strengths and which region is for fintech, which region is for health tech, the strongest. So this would be like one thing that I would advise for you if you're thinking of Germany. And then in terms of the UK, so the UK is the most developed, I would say, startup ecosystem amongst the three countries. It is the fourth largest in London is the fourth strongest startup ecosystem in the world. And basically, like in the UK, also you have a lot of investment opportunities. Like it's one of the best places to go and raise investment within Europe. So it has a lot to offer and a lot of opportunities. And it's a very mature market, but at the same time, it's also the most competitive markets from the three countries that I have mentioned. So if you do go to Germany, to UK, sorry, then you have to really have your things together. So because otherwise they will say, well, there are 10,000, or like maybe not 10,000, but 1,000 similar companies to you. Why should I even give my time to you? And one example that I could highlight is that when we were organizing Discover Europe previously, basically the companies would pitch in front of Hungarian investors, the German investors, and UK investors. And for some reason that batch, the USP wasn't very strong with any of these companies. The Hungarian investors were very kind. They were listening to them. They were then asking a few questions, and they mentioned like, what is your USP? Then they explained it, and then they asked further questions to really get to understand, because it still wasn't clear. The German investors were stricter with not having a USP, and the UK investor basically stopped 3-4 companies while they were pitching, and they said, sorry, I don't want to continue to listen to you because I don't know what is your USP. You're wasting my time. And that's when the startups were like, oops, Olivia, I think you were right about this, that we should really have a better USP and a stronger USP, because otherwise, as I said, like just the amount of companies that want to enter the UK market is just very high. And I know a lot of companies then ask about Brexit. And despite Brexit, still the foreign investment in UK VCs is still very, very high, and it also investment into companies, to startups in the UK was record breaking in 2021 as well, despite COVID and despite Brexit. So yeah, so this is what I would say about the UK. And besides this, the UK is also the easiest country among these 3 countries that I have mentioned to set up your own business. So basically, if you want to set up a business in the UK, it takes roughly 10 minutes, I think, to register your business. And the whole process will take 24, 48 hours, something like this. Whereas in Germany, if you want to set up a company, it's so difficult and it's so expensive that often companies tend to buy another company and just rename it, because it takes like roughly 25,000 euros to set up a company in Germany. So this is something that I would also say why the UK is a great destination to go to. And also what I have mentioned, that the UK is a very mature market. So if you go to London, you have basically like different kind of co-working offices that are specializing on a certain sector. So you have, for example, Level 39 in Canary Wharf, which is only focusing on fintech, for example. And then you have, it's a great opportunity for you to network there, to get to know other fintech companies. Then you're also always only going to have basically investors coming in that are aiming to invest in fintech companies. So your network is going to boom, and also the way your learning curve is going to go up, because you are going to see a lot of similar companies or basically companies from the same sector. So this is also a reason why it's great to go to the UK. I think roughly this would be it. I hope I kind of introduced this in a good way. I don't know if you have any further questions or.
That was very insightful, and of course I am going to end up wiser out of this session. And like, since we just have 15 minutes for the session, though I have one more question for you, but I think in the meanwhile we can even take some audience questions as well. So Mr. Ananta Iyer, I already see your question here, so in case you want to enunciate it yourself, considering your video is on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vaishali, for pitching in appropriately, and thanks a lot, Olivia, for bringing out the various challenges that we startups might face in Europe. One of the things that often bothers us is the absolutely strict, stringent requirements, the regulatory requirements around the environmental compliance, around data security. Okay, now these are not so stringent in India, right? And we in India are used to kind of going ahead with a very simplistic approach around these things. So, is there a way that we can successfully navigate through this very tight requirements on the regulatory requirements from the European market? What are your thoughts on that, Olivia?
Well, sorry, the last part I didn't really hear because someone else was talking. But can you just rephrase one more the question at the end?
Yeah, the point is that around the very tough regulatory requirements that are there, especially in the regions of environmental regulations, as well as in the regions of data security and protection. These are quite tight in the European market, whereas these are quite lax in India. And I would say it's much more easier in India to do a business around these activities.
Yeah.
So, is there a proper way to successfully navigate ourselves through these requirements in Europe?
Well, I would say that, if you want to expand to a different region where the region is different, then you have to adapt, basically. So I would say that the best thing is to see a way and hire a specialist that can help you in navigating you how to comply with these regulations. And like, I know that, for example, also our administration team, when it comes to the GDPR policy, like, they're very much like, okay, we have to get everything right, because if we don't, then we are going to get a huge fine. So what I would advise is to look for, sorry, someone started to share their screen. So what I would advise is really to look for I don't know what this is, a company that can help you and navigate you in this process, basically. Or the best thing is to also find a local lawyer that could navigate you on this, and that's the most cost-efficient way, rather than trying to find out yourself and then doing a mistake and then you have to pay a lot of money. So this is what I would say.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Olivia, for that. That explains.
Okay, Olivia. So like, I see a lot of questions regarding the mentoring and the forum support. So in case you can quickly touch upon what are the specifics of Discover Europe program and how it eases the market entry for European entry for Indian startups, that will be great. And then after we'll go for the other questions. And also, Ashish ji, if you can look into the IT thing, I think there's something else being projected on the screen that can be resolved. Yeah. So yes, Olivia, back to you.
I think someone has shared their tax income something. But anyways, so basically, like,
maybe CII team can address that on the screen.
I think I can stop them from sharing it. I think I did it, but okay. Yeah, so basically, like, what I would say is the reason why Discover Europe is a great program if you're interested in the European market is what I mentioned, that rather than seeing Europe as a chaotic like a melting pot of different kind of countries and cultures and languages and etc., Discover Europe offers you a way of kind of having an overview of the European market in general. So the reason why we are focusing on Hungary, so Eastern Europe, Germany, Central Europe, and the UK, Western Europe, is to kind of give you a sense of what these regions are standing for and what I have briefly mentioned right now, and to see and to give you an experience and explaining you how it works, to introduce you to local players so you can already expand your network, and to local startups so you can they can share their story with you. And also by pitching in front of local investors, obviously you will get already an instant feedback. What I have mentioned now, that the problem was in this previous batch that no one really had a proper USP or a USP that would fit the European expectations. So this is basically like we give like an overall view of what these markets are about, what the EU can offer you, and we help you and guide you in finding the market that fits you most. Like with a batch, we really thought like most of them would go for the UK or for Germany, and actually most of them chose Hungary, and most of them actually they would fit Hungary the most because they were not at the stage yet to really enter. Oops. Something disappeared. Oh yeah, they were not at the stage yet to really enter like a mature market like Germany or the UK. So they had way more chances of succeeding by entering Hungary first, getting the experience of, okay, what is it to be in Europe and to be in an EU country, and what Ananta mentioned as well, for example, with the regulations and these kind of things. And it was way more cost efficient to do it through Hungary. So Discover Europe, as I said, it offers you it's an educational program of some sort, and then it's also a way of expanding your network in these target countries, and it's a guidance for you as well to which country would fit you the most, and where you can succeed the most. And we also offer you basically guidance. I'm sorry, some people just keep on calling and it's horrible and I don't understand why you are refusing the call. Anyways, so basically, where was I? So Discover Europe, as I said, you get to learn, you get to meet people, and you basically come up to the fact that it's step zero. So you will be ready to expand to one of these countries, which we think from our side that you would fit the most, and where you think as well, because obviously this is a communication between us as the experts and you, who is an expert as well in your own field and you know yourself the most. And then we work together as a team and then come up with a strategy. Okay, how could you actually expand to one of these countries and grow your business? And then if the program ends, we are also more than happy to basically set up an individual collaboration and really help you providing you like the boots on the ground and being your local partner that can really guide you, connect you with further specialists, lawyers, etc., whatever you would need. So this is really the point of Discover Europe. Right now, we are still in the process of getting companies to sign up. But once we have the final list of the people who are going to participate in the program, then we're also going to make sure that we actually provide a tailor-made program. So it's not just going to be general and like learning about things that you don't need, but it's going to be, we're going to bring in mentors in these specific countries that will really be able to give you this specific kind of detailed insight that I was mentioning, that maybe the legislation is not going to fit, or maybe the customers, you have an idea of your target customers in Germany, but it's completely off track, and the mentor is going to know this. So this is really what Discover Europe can offer you, is in a way of learning, engaging, and then coming to the point where you can actually almost expand.
Thank you, Olivia. That was very helpful. So for all the participants, I see a lot of questions regarding how they can reach us or how they can get help from the forum. So you can write me at jen@ebtc.eu. And we'll be happy to take all your questions. And since we just have another 4 minutes left for the session, so probably I'll just quickly scan through the questions, and Olivia will just going to give some quick answers. This one says, which country is best for biotech startup and research? UK, Germany, or Hungary?
Biotech is quite broad, so it's a bit difficult to say, but it really depends what you're doing exactly in biotech. What I mentioned before, what is your budget? What is your goal that you want to achieve? So obviously all three countries can offer you like opportunities, but I would have to know more to give you an answer rather than just saying Jolly.
Okay, so Sridhar Krishna, you have to tell us more about your biotech startup for us to give you an opinion on it. The next question is, I am a manufacturing of specialty chemicals. Want to know, is there any priority for startups for obtaining licenses to sell chemicals?
Definitely. So,
yeah.
Sorry. So what Anantha said as well, like we have much tighter regulations than you in India. So I would advise you to first check online within the own specific sector, and what kind of regulations would apply to you. And then I would definitely suggest for you to get in touch with a lawyer or with basically to get these regulations right, and that to make sure that you comply with these regulations, with these European regulations. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to sell your product. So that's what I would say.
Okay. So then we have one gentleman asking about Poland, that what is the USP of Poland? Does it covers anywhere?
What do you mean USP of Poland in terms of what? So sorry, these questions are a bit broad. So it's I like USP for what? What kind of startup you are, or in terms of investment? So I'm happy to, if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them as well. I can type in my email address and then I will get back to you with my email address.
Yeah, so we have a follow-up on it in terms of doing business, but that's okay. I think we understand that these are like little vague questions, and then we need to have better insights and clarity on what someone is looking at. So when it comes to maybe leather, it might be great, but in terms of cotton, it might not be great. So we need to even understand the business before giving that an answer as an answer. So I think we are more so through with the questions, which seems to be relevant for the event. And I think we are done with the time as well. So I'm happy that we are finishing off pretty much in time. Olivia, any last remarks or comments that you have, that something that should have been there and might have been missed to be asked?
Well, basically, I think I hope I introduced the Discover Europe program in a way that people understand what it can offer. I hope many companies will apply, because we will start the program very soon. And if you have any further questions, then as I said, my connect me on LinkedIn. I'm Olivia Exton on LinkedIn, or write me an email, and then I'm happy to if I cannot answer the question, because for example, in terms of spice export, I'm not sure, if I'm very honest. I wish I would know what is the USP of Poland in terms of spice export, but I don't. But I'm more than happy then to basically connect you with someone that might know that, or that could connect you further down the road. So that's what I can say.
Thank you, Olivia, for your time. And Ashish ji, thank you for this great session. Thank you, CII, for organizing this. And I think with this, we can conclude the session.
Yeah, before we conclude, I would like to thank Olivia for this excellent session. And I hope there are many startups on